Hello, Serge here for the Backyard Driving Range. I have a question today. Came into customer service, and this is from Donald Foran. And Donald spells his name D-O-N-A-L. He doesn't have a D on the end like I do, but it's still a Donald. And so Donald says, Serge, I have been using your swing now for at least a few years, and after purchasing many of your videos, I find my game has improved tremendously, and I recently broke 80 at my golf course. This is really down to my short game, as I am having some issues with my driver. That's the one club most people have issues with, right? Because if you're, say, hitting a 7-iron or a pitching wedge 10% off, and those go, say, about 100 yards with a pitching wedge to 120, and your driver goes 250, 10% of 150 and 10% of 250 is more offline, correct? So, and usually it's going to be more than that, because as club faces get more flat, and you've got any kind of spin you're putting on the ball, a flatter face, the ball rolls across the club face more, especially with a longer club like a driver, and it's going to give it even more side spin as compared to, say, a wedge or a 7-iron, where it's going diagonally across the face but up, so it's getting a diagonal spin rather than a pure side spin. All right? So Donald says, I seem to be hitting a lot of my shots off the heel of the club, losing a fair amount of distance. Can you help? I have tried numerous things to rectify it but failed. Donald. Okay, first and foremost, Don's implying that it's just his driver. So normally what I'm going to say every time is, good chance if you're swinging most of the other clubs pretty good, and that's the only club that's wrong, or maybe one or two clubs, and the majority of your golf clubs are good, then it's not the Indian, it's the arrow. Go get it. Go get that arrow checked. All right? And so we'll pull out the big boy right here, and just remember, as the clubs get longer, any swing issues get maximized, and become worse. All right? So I'm just going to take my little rubber tee out over here, and I'm going to put it down, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that can happen with from setup. First and foremost, naturally, we have to look at alignment. If you're aimed out to the right, there's a good chance that if you're aimed to the right, and you have to come back to the ball, and trying to hit it relatively straight, you're going to come over the top, and coming over the top is coming from outside to in. There's a great chance that the heel is going to be on the club. All right. Another good issue that causes to put the heel into the club, and remember now, the heel of a driver is not going to hurt you too much, because there's no way you're going to hit a hosel rocket, because there's no the hosel's way up here. It's not near the face like with an iron, where you got the hosel coming all the way down into the side of the club, which can shoot the hosel rockets. Means for a right-hander, I'm going to fire it that way. All right, it's kind of like straight that way. And so with a driver, you're just going to hit some heelys, and you're right, because today most drivers are built with the sweet spot somewhere centered to outside towards the toe, and if you're doing that and you're hitting it way over here, you're missing the sweet spot by so far. You're definitely hitting it like thuds, and you can hear that it doesn't sound very good, and it's definitely not going to go very far because you missed the sweet spot. And in most cases, you won't be on, square and solid at that moment of impact. So it's coming some way like this, so you're hitting it, and you're putting that side spin on it. And anything that isn't going dead straight, it has side spin, which gives a curve, is moving away from the target, which means you're losing distance relative to not only how long you hit it, but getting closer to the target. Okay? One of the other big causes is I've seen people who get a lot of heelys, just get in here and they start getting a little bit too much knee drive. And so if you're driving your knees too much, if I keep my knees relatively level and straight and I come into the shot, I'm coming in right there. But if I get too much knee action, see where I'm coming in now? If my knees are coming in right about here, that club face is in the middle of that tee, push too much knee action here, and that can push the hosel into the ball. Another one could be standing too close. Just standing a little bit too close. You see what happens a lot of times with that is when you stand too close, you have to come up off you have to stand up a little bit, or are you going to pull across it, and that's going to be outside in. But because you're coming outside in, there's still a good chance the hosel is going to be, the heel is going to be, you're coming in where the impact point is, you'll be heeling it. All right. There's just so many numerous cases of what can cause this. And again, just another one could be your clubs are too long. And so, in being too long, you stand up and put it here. And if you're doing a good job of straightening your arms up, it could be forcing the club out too far. Another good one is that if you stand up here, many golfers today really like to stand up here with the right arm higher than the left. We know we want the right arm below the left so we can take it straight back in the mitt and up the tree. Well, if you stand it up outside, if you stand it with the right arm or your back arm too high, the club, if you look at me on the mat here, can actually go outside. If it goes outside and you swing even straight up and straight down from there, there's a good chance you're going to hit pulls. You could hit it straight, but you could also still be hitting it on the heel, which is going to be very weak shots. So the key is even if you start here and that right side's high, the club can be going outside and then coming down in like this. Another way that could be doing it is if you reverse tilt and you reverse weight shift as you're going down like this, getting closer to the ball, and you come back up. You didn't come up enough to get the club square, and you come up and it's still a little bit into it. But we can go on and on ad infinitum. Basically, it's got to be something wrong with the setup and alignment and all those other issues. But more than not, it could be just that there's something wrong with the club, meaning the shaft might be too weak or too stiff for you. A good classic sign in many cases, if you feel like you're really making good swings, you're going to hit it thin and maybe a little to the heel because the club hasn't kicked yet. If it's too stiff for you, that happens to me a lot when I try somebody who's got like really stiff shafts or shafts that are X stiffness. I know that there's a good chance I can hit that ball, but it's very likely going to be thin and a little to the heel because the club hadn't kicked in. Well, I don't have enough swing speed to kick it in anymore. All right, and so that could be a thing. But again, if it's the only club in the bag bothering you, get the arrow checked. If you're sitting everything else good, it's not the Indian. It could be the arrow, and very likely the arrow. Get it to one of our certified fitters, and bring that club in, get it checked, and you'll probably find out that it's probably something to do with your arrow, not you. And then again, if the club is okay, then you got to look at some of all these options, and in many cases, it could be any one thing or a number of things. And the best way to do that is go see a certified swing surgeon instructor and get your swing checked by him, or in fact maybe yourself try videotaping it and see if you can't pick out what's wrong. Because between these videos and getting the swings on and all our instructions on the website, you should be able to diagnose, know what the maximum correct setup is and the correct swing, and probably you might be able to start seeing, is the club going outside or sucking it inside? Am I turning my shoulders too much? Are my knees moving too much? There we go, I forgot that one. You stop moving your knee too much and you're going in closer to the ball and you can't stand up fast enough. There's another one on hitting it on the heel. All right, so it's there. Know the swing. Check yours out on a video. You might start even seeing yourself and see what the issue is as some of these videos come in and say, these dailies, they say, well, I videotaped my swing and guess what I saw? I think I did one recently where a gentleman said, I saw I was moving my left knee like crazy. Okay? Plain as day as soon as he looked at himself. Firmed up the left knee and he said he started hitting the ball great. Okay? Well, that's it for the search for today on some self-diagnosis here. And it works for ourselves as long as we know what we want to do. We understand the peak performance setup. We understand the peak performance swing. And hopefully we can figure out what your issues are with every club, whatever the issue are that you have from one club or to everything in your swing. Okay? The big key is setup determines the motion. Get a good setup and then get the correct motion. You'll be hitting it more solid straight and shooting those low scores. That's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking with you all again soon.